So the government shutdown is now well into its fourth week, and it's impacting over 750,000 lives. But you hear these big numbers in the headlines. What does this whole thing actually mean for the people who are caught right in the middle of it? Let's break it all down.
22. As of today, that's how many days the U.S. government has been partially shut down. And that number? It just keeps ticking up day after day with no deal in sight. But what does a number like 22 really represent?
Well, for starters, it represents 750,000 civilian federal employees who have been sent home. Just like that, their jobs and, more importantly, their paychecks are completely on hold.
But honestly, even that huge number doesn't tell the full story. You've got thousands more who are still required to work, but without pay. So what we're going to do here is go beyond the political noise and really get into the human and economic cost of this standoff.
Okay, so what's the situation on the ground right now on day 22? Well, to put it simply, it's gridlock. Total gridlock. Washington is basically at a standstill, and there is no clear end in sight.
You'd think with all the mounting pressure, something would give, right? But no, there has been zero breakthrough. The Senate isn't even voting on a bill to reopen the government. The result is just another day goes by with total inaction.
And this quote from President Trump, it pretty much sums up the entire problem. He's drawn a clear line in the sand saying he won't even negotiate until the government is reopened first. It's that classic political standoff. Which comes first, the chicken or the egg?
And while all that political back and forth is happening in Washington, you've got hundreds of thousands of real people, real workers who are just stuck. Their lives have been completely thrown into chaos.
Now, you hear this word thrown around all the time, furloughed. What does it actually mean? It means about 750,000 people were just told, stay home. Now, legally, they're supposed to get back pay, eventually. But eventually doesn't pay this month's rent or buy groceries this week.
Then you've got this other group, the accepted employees. These are the folks considered so essential that they can't be sent home. Think about air traffic controllers, border patrol, our active duty military. And what do they get for being so essential? They have to show up to work every single day. For free.
And this, right here, is where it gets real. For so many, this is the week the first full paycheck is missed. Not a partial one, a full one. We're talking $0. This is the exact moment when a political fight in Washington becomes a genuine financial emergency at the kitchen table for families all over the country.
And, just when you think it can't get any worse than not getting paid, a whole new threat has popped up. For more than 4,100 federal employees, they've gotten a notice that is way, way worse than a furlough.
That's right, layoff notices. The administration has said it plans to fire more than 10,000 workers. Now, a judge has put a temporary stop to that, but can you just imagine the anxiety? And get this, some employees can't even get into their work email to see if they're on the list. It is an absolute mess.
Okay, so with all this chaos, you'd hope there are some efforts to help people, right? Well, there are. But even those attempts at relief have gotten completely sucked into the political vortex, and it's actually dividing the workforce even more.
70,000. That is the number of law enforcement officers at the Department of Homeland Security who are apparently about to get what some are calling a super check.
And this is where it gets really complicated and, frankly, a little weird. Using some special funding, agents for Border Patrol and ICE are set to get this super check that covers all their shutdown work and overtime. But their colleagues, the TSA screeners working at the very same airports, they get nothing. It's literally a tale of two paychecks inside the very same department. And this same kind of division is playing out over in Congress. There's a bill called the Shutdown Fairness Act, and it would pay all those accepted employees who are still on the job. Sounds good, right? Well, here's the problem. It does nothing for the 700,000 workers who are furloughed. Democrats are blocking it, arguing that if you only pay some workers, it takes the pressure off Republicans to negotiate a real deal to open the entire government. So yeah, even the proposed solutions are stuck in politics.
So look, this isn't just about the federal workers, as devastating as it is for them. This whole thing is creating these ripple effects that are starting to become a real drag on the entire U.S. economy.
$400 million. That's how much it's estimated to cost per day just to cover the back pay for furloughed workers once this is all over. It's a gigantic bill for work that isn't even getting done right now.
And that cost, it has a direct impact on the country's economic growth. Economists figure the shutdown is slicing anywhere from 0.1 to 0.2 percentage points off of U.S. economic growth every single week. If this thing drags on for a whole quarter, that is a serious blow to the economy.
And you can actually feel this impact in everyday life, even if you don't work for the government. You've got longer lines at the airport, small businesses that can't get their loans approved, national parks with their gates locked, even delays for people trying to get flood insurance. The shutdown is really starting to touch every corner of American life.
So with all this going on, who are people blaming? Well, if you look at the recent polls, it turns out there's plenty of blame to go around. 60% of adults blame the president and Republicans, but a majority, 54%, also point the finger at the Democrats. And when most people are blaming both sides, it kind of explains why neither side feels enough pressure to be the first one to blink.
All right, so let's pull all of this together. After 22 days of this, what's the bottom line? When the entire political system just grinds to a halt like this, who is it that really ends up paying the price? Well, the cost is carried by the federal workers who are facing incredible financial stress. It's carried by the U.S. economy, which is taking a real, measurable hit week after week. And it's carried by the American public, who have to deal with all these disrupted services. That's the true cost when politics breaks down this badly.
Look, the immediate costs are obvious, right? We've talked about the missed paychecks and the slowing economy, but the bigger question, the one that really lingers as this shutdown continues with no end in sight, is this. What's the long-term price we all pay for this kind of political gridlock?